Chapter 18, The Battle of the Barnyard, The Beginning. Chance plays such a large part in the lives not only of people, but also of chickens and foxes. It was the purest chance that a hen should have flown in noisy triumph from the laying of an egg at the precise moment that Farmer came out of his back door on the day before the foxes tried their first attack on the Dutch barn nests. From the laying of this egg followed directly these facts: that the farmer moved the ladder, that the attack was called off, that the lives of a large number of mothers and children were saved, that thus a terrible blow to the flock's morale was avoided, that the foxes were unable to make a move until the ladder was returned to its previous position, and finally that this enforced delay gave the family and the rest of the flock time to complete their training, their trials, and their preparation, in the course of which their confidence increased greatly. From the laying of this one egg, then, it followed that when the foxes mounted their second ladder attack, they faced a very unexpected situation. The fowls still knew nothing of the threat posed by the ladder, but the foxes knew nothing of the threat posed by the fowls. Thus, the very next morning, when the foxes lay in Indian file behind the big plant of yellow ragwort, waiting for the farmer to come out of the milking parlor, they little thought that they had already been sighted from 2 of the 9 sentry posts, and took no notice of the silent flight of a cockerel, it was Ikey, from a tree at the edge of the yard toward the main buildings. It had been agreed that there should be no outcry when the enemy was first sighted, but that they should be allowed to come in, hopefully to a spot of the flock's own choosing, before the battle was joined. After the consultation which had followed the previous odd raid, scouts had been sent out to try to trace the route by which the foxes had come. This they did easily by following a trail of molted red hairs which the raiders had shed in their state of tense excitement, so that all knew about the blind hedge and the dry ditch and the drain hole and the narrow passage. Supposing that the Longnoses took the same approach, and here the fowls were gambling, for a gamble may have to be taken in even the best laid battle plan, it was decided that at the peak moment of surprise from the raiders' point of view, that is to say, at the instant that they burst out into the yard, every available bird should fly at them, as near as they dared and with the maximum of noise. By this means they hoped to do 3 things: to alert the farmer and his dogs, to confuse and perhaps dismay the foxes, and to split the raiders up so as to provide individual targets for high-speed attacks by the 3 dauntless dive bombers. At Ikey's warning, a troop of specially detailed young cockerel scouts and pullet guides carried the news quickly and quietly to every combatant, and all took up their positions. 2 sentries remained at each sentry post in case the route of approach should be altered, while the others, including the post commanders, flew in to join the main body. Spillers and Massey Harris went to their command post on the very top of the grain silo, the highest building of all, and on the ridgepole of the great barn sat the 3 sisters, the day's eggs not yet laid. They were at the very peak of condition, superbly trained, poised for instant takeoff. Around the yard the roofs were black with grim, determined birds. All was silent. The stillness was broken by the stable clock chiming the hour of 9. And a few minutes later the farmer came out of the milking parlor into the bright sunlight of a day that was already hot and, followed by his dogs, made his way to the farmhouse. A minute later one of the 2 remaining sentries on Ikey's post flew in to report that the foxes were on the move, and his companion followed shortly afterward, going directly to the command post, from which almost immediately Massey Harris gave one loud crow. This was the prearranged signal, known to all, that the foxes had reached the narrow passage. All was ready.